Danielle Smith, Premier Ministre of the Province of Alberta, who is coming to meet and greet the Central African community of Calgary. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Welcome, Premier. Very much. You can please have a seat. So just before we begin, I would like to acknowledge in this room Honorable Minister Muhammad Yassin, Minister of Immigration and Multiculturalism. We also have with us, can you please give some applause for our minister? We also have MLA Miles McDougall, MLA of Calgary. And I would like to thank Dr. Danielle, who is the Outreach Manager of the Premier's Office. And we have been working some days past midnight to get this one off the ground. So thank you very much. I'll also like to recognize the organizing committee who came together very fast. And when I say very fast, it's very fast. And I'll quickly, if you can please stand or raise your hands. Reverend Dr. Chibidi, who is the chair of the organizing committee. We have Victor Kamini, president of the Cameroonian Canadian Association of Calgary. We have George Pigwe, who is the program director of the Cameroonian Canadian Association of Calgary. I guess that's me. I'm MC, but many for the community have held several roles, but currently I run the welcome program for newcomers for our community and the francophone community at large. I would like to also acknowledge Patrick Njapa, who is founder and CEO of Elevated Impact Consulting, has been keeping us together and working as a team. I'd like to also acknowledge Paul Continini from Cameroon Program Coordinator, Sakine Mahamat Ahmad from Chad, who is the President of the Chad Women Association of Alberta, Mimi Kayembe from Congo, who is pastor at the Metanoia City Church, J.D. Rutayomba from Congo, who is not here today but has done a phenomenal work with the volunteer. Please clap your hands for her. She's the founder and executive director of Bright Light of Africa. We also want to recognize here Freddy Zou from Gabon, community leader. Danielle Smith from Gabon, and Lilian Kam from Cameroon, and who is also the president of the Bamileke community of Calgary, a subgroup of Cameroon. So that's the team that have been working very closely with Dr. Chika over the past days to make this event happen. So I'll be switching sometime French to English to accommodate our audience. And I'll try when I can to translate that we will get everything. So just before we start, I will go with the land acknowledgement. I'll go with the short version. In the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge that we live, work, and play on the traditional territories of the Blackfoot Confederacy, Siksika, Kainai, Pikai, the Tutsina, the Stony Nakoda Nations, Shiniki Bearpaw Woodstony, the Oti PBC Wak Métis Governments, District 6 and Area 6, and all people who make their home in the Treaty 7 of Southern Alberta. Thank you very much and welcome again everyone at this meet and greet event. I would say the first of its kind. And we are very honored to have the Prime Minister and the team joining us. I would like to call very hard to kind of accommodate other countries at the same time. So you can sing in French or in English.
Oh, Canada, exploits et ta grandeur, deux fois trempée, protégera nos foyers et nos pas, protégera nos foyers et notre monde.
Thank you very much, Patrick. Wonderful voice. Please be seated. So now I would like to call Lumiere Come, who represents the entire Central African community who has been working for this event for a welcoming remark.
Bonjour, hello and welcome. We are privileged to welcome Honorable Premier Smith and her entourage to our community. Nous sommes réunis ici aujourd'hui en tant que représentants des communautés dynamiques d'Afrique centrale, de la ville de Calgary. Nous venons d'horizons divers, portant de cultures riches et d'expériences variées, mais avec un objectif commun, construire un avenir plus producteur pour nos familles, nos communautés et nous-mêmes. Our communities have always been built on resilience, strength, and an incredible cultural heritage. We have faced challenges, but our perseverance and determination have allowed us to thrive. However, we recognize that there is still much to accomplish. Nous faisons face à des défis uniques, barrières linguistiques, adaptation culturelle, accès à l'éducation et à l'emploi. Ces obstacles ne sont pas insurmontables, mais ils demandent des solutions adaptées et des compétences et surtout de l'entraide. That is why today's conversation is so crucial. By sharing our experiences, perspectives, and aspirations, we can build bridges of understanding and cooperation. We are here to identify opportunities, forge meaningful partnership, and develop solutions that will drive positive change. Dear Honorable Premier Smith, we would like to acknowledge your dedication to addressing the province's unique challenges and promoting inclusivity. Nous sommes impatients de dialoguer avec vous, Madame la Première. Ensemble, nous pouvons identifier des opportunités dans le domaine tels que l'éducation, l'emploi et l'entrepreneuriat. This event provides an opportunity to work together towards a more inclusive, equitable, and prosperous Alberta. Let us seize this opportunity to create a lasting change and ensure that every voice in our communities is heard and valued. Together, we can achieve great things. Merci, thank you.
Thank you very much, Liliane. That was a wonderful speech. I couldn't have done better. Thank you. I would like us, please, with a round of applause, to welcome Honorable Premier Ministre Danielle Smith for her opening remarks.
Should I use this one or this one? I'll use this one. Do I see any goats here?
Yes.
Gauthier, and Lydian. Thank you so much for those great welcoming remarks. And thank you all for being here today as well. I'd also like to acknowledge my colleagues in the legislature, of course, the Honourable Minister, Mohammed Yassin, Minister of Immigration and Multiculturalism, as well as Miles McDougall, who represents Fish Creek and comes to every event, and I'm so grateful to you for doing that, my friend. Also, the person who runs my Calgary Premier's office, Bruce McAllister, is going to call him McDougall, just name right beside Miles. I've known Bruce almost my whole life, so I don't know why I couldn't remember his last name for a minute. And then Dr. Chica as well, who does such amazing work in the office. One of the things that was our goal when I first got in was making sure that as we looked at all of our agencies, boards, and commissions, as we looked across our senior civil service, that we had a diversity of perspectives that were represented. And you can't really know what the lived experience of somebody is unless you talk to the person with that lived experience. And so when I give you the invitation at the end to be in touch with Bruce and Dr. Chica, if you think that there are councils that we have that you're not well represented on, please take me up on that so that we can make sure that your voice is heard. There's a lot of issues that I want to address with you here today. I know you've got some questions for me, and so I'll get right to it, and then we can get into the Q&A. So I am grateful to the Cameroonian Canadian Association of Calgary for bringing us here today. And it is a pleasure to meet you here and to hear from the city's Central African communities and to update you on how our government is making things better for you and for all Albertans. Alberta is home to people from many parts of Africa and from the wider African diaspora. That's one of the things that we are challenged by as we started putting together our Black Advisory Committee. We initially started, I think, Bruce, with 11 members? Yeah, that doesn't represent anywhere near the diversity of your community. So we'd be seeking some of your advice on that to make sure that everyone feels represented. But no matter where your family started out, they all end up here for the same reason. The search for freedom and opportunity and for a better life. Everything our government does is centered on those principles, and that's why I was very proud that we passed legislation in the fall that ensures that in an ever-evolving world, the rights and freedoms of Albertans continue to be protected. We want Alberta to remain one of the freest societies in the world, and that's why we updated our Alberta Bill of Rights. We also passed legislation to protect kids, to ensure that kids are not making adult decisions before they're ready to when it comes to issues surrounding their gender identity. We want to make sure that they've got time to grow and experience and explore all opportunities available to them as they grow into adulthood. That's why we will not be allowing puberty blockers or surgeries for minors until they're of an age that they understand the consequences of their actions. We also know that parents always want to know what's going on with their kids, and so if any changes to names are happening at school, you have to be able to give consent and be informed of that. Some other changes that we're making. And we also passed legislation that protects the ability for everyone to participate in sports, whether that's through co-ed, but we also want to have a biological female-only category as well, so that women and girls are participating. Priorities for our government, I think they're priorities for Albertans. Our goal is in creating the right conditions for you to keep on succeeding. Albertans of African descent have been contributing to our province for a very long time. And we're celebrating that as part of Black History Month right now. In fact, in my riding is the cabin of John Ware. He, if you've ever been to Dinosaur Provincial Park, he was one of the very first black settlers who came up to help us build out our ranching industry. And his historic cabin is located there in Dinosaur Provincial Park down in Brooks Medicine Hat, where I represent. But there are so many other wonderful stories that I look forward to sharing as we have our celebrations this month. Ensuring that you continue on a path of success starts with supporting all cultures that call Alberta home. We have the Premier's Council on Multiculturalism to advise us on strengthening diversity. We're working with the Alberta Anti-Racism Advisory Council on addressing hate. And we're also working with the Alberta Black Advisory Council on anti-Black racism and inclusion for Black communities province-wide. I think Dr. Chica told me that we don't have a representative from Cameroon or Chad or Gabon or what else am I missing? Congo. So you'll have to give us some advice of whether having one representative for all 4 communities is enough to be able to give us I think Dr. is probably going to have himself or one of the other leaders nominated by the time we're done at the end of today. But do talk to Dr. Chica and Bruce about that, because we'd like to be able to broaden out that representation. So we are doing more to help newcomers to get a great start, and Minister Yassine has done so much work in this regard. He's got such a great big heart. We have our Immigrant Achievement Awards that he has pioneered each and every year, honoring the incredible contributions of immigrants to Canadian business and culture and academia. So if you've got some great nominees, just know that Mohammed will take those away as well. We're also doing what we can to help support everyone getting a great start. We're providing $10 million for agencies running settlement, integration, and language services. We're funding English services and language assessments so that new immigrants can get the training that's right for them. We provide grants to support businesses, nonprofits, and professional regulators to help newcomers join the workforce, because everyone beginning a new life in Alberta wants to do well and look after their families, and that's important to us too. Since our United Conservative government was first elected in 2019, we've broken down barriers and set up initiatives to get newcomers jobs. It includes working to speed up the recognition of international credentials and trade certifications, and we had a unanimous agreement in the legislature to work on putting together a committee to fast track that. So that work is well underway. It may require some legislative changes. We are providing, so we want to speed up the recognition of international credentials and trade certifications, providing career mentorship for internationally trained professionals, and offering low-interest microloans to help cover the cost of licensing and upgrading. We're expanding post-secondary programs linked to high-demand industries such as healthcare and construction and technology and energy, and we're putting extra money into apprenticeship programs to create more seats. In fact, we've seen a 50% year-over-year increase in the number of apprentices. And we're doing all of this because for Alberta to continue building and growing, we need a strong workforce with opportunities for everyone. Alberta is stronger when we're all involved and all working towards the common goals of freedom and prosperity and compassion for one another. And it's just as important for everyone to have a fantastic quality of life. We're making progress there as well. Alberta is building homes faster than ever and faster than anywhere else in the country. I'm very proud to say that our province led the country in housing starts per capita last year, including for multifamily housing. More homes is going to help with the crunch in the housing market, but also create more housing options that fit everybody's financial means. And to ensure this, we're also creating more supports for low and middle income renters as well as prospective home buyers. We've made more provincial land available for housing. We're exempting designated affordable housing from property taxes, and we're also investing directly to build thousands of new units by 2030. Alternative finance mortgages are also an important tool for helping people become homeowners, and we passed legislation to expand these options for all Albertans. I don't know how many members of your community are Muslim, but one of the things that we had heard is that the interest-only mortgages was one of the things that was acting as a barrier. So we made changes to allow for rent-to-own or equity or fee-based mortgages that will be halal compliant, so people are going to be able to purchase homes in Alberta is the first Canadian jurisdiction to change the law to allow for provincially regulated financial institutions to offer these mortgages. Service is the first one going, credit union, and I believe ATB is going to follow afterwards. So if anyone is seeking those products, please go there and tell us your experience. And if we have any problems, we want to be able to hear about that so that we can make them more available. I do expect at least one major financial institution in Alberta will be making them available early this year. That was what the intention was. Health matters, of course, just as much as a home, and that's why we're continuing to fix the healthcare system so you can get better, faster treatment no matter what your needs are. We've created 2 new health agencies, Recovery Alberta for mental health and addiction issues, and Primary Care Alberta to make sure every person gets connected with a family doctor or nurse practitioner. And we're looking forward to opening 2 more agencies this year, one focused on assisted living so that we can get our seniors into appropriate care homes, as well as acute care, so that we can make sure that all of our hospitals are able to treat you efficiently if you go for emergency and able to get you through if you need a surgery. We're creating a modern, responsive, and unified system centered on the people who use it and the professionals who run it. We're also creating more spaces in schools because they are bursting at the seams, especially in the northeast quadrant of Calgary. In September, we've announced that we're accelerating school construction to create more than 200,000 new school spaces. To keep up with record-breaking population growth, we have already advanced 11 priority school projects to the next stage of development. And just today, Education Minister Dimitrios Nicolaides announced 11 more, including 3 in the Calgary area. So Redstone, K-4 for CBE, and K-6 for Catholic, as well as Cornerstone, a new high school, grades 10 to 12 for CBE. Those were announced today. So those will be accelerated so that we can get those up and in operation within the next few years. Our work is in every area is focused on ensuring Alberta remains the best place to live and work and raise a family, and a truly incredible and welcoming home for everyone, where Albertans from all faiths and backgrounds can live by the values that they choose. And that will always be our approach to government. There are challenges ahead, especially when it comes to the economy, and I don't know that I can promise that this road is going to be smooth for the next few months, but I can promise you that I will not stop fighting for opportunities for our province and keep Alberta Canada's economic leader, because that's what brought so many thousands of you with your families to this beautiful province. And I hope you know that we're really so that's a good place to begin, and I'm looking forward to having the conversation. Thanks for having me up.
Thank you very much, Honorable Premier Danielle Smith. I have an echo here. Oh, I guess I'm one. Can you hear me better now? Okay, just before we go to the fireside chat, I would like to quickly highlight a couple of things from the Premier's opening remarks. Thank you very much for the board's position, as was mentioned. I think it's a very nice announcement or call. And you mentioned the new school being open, which is wonderful. Probably some people will be asking the question about the Francophone schools. So I know some of the students are living in the northeast and are spending 1 hour and 15 minutes one way to go south to school. There's no Francophone school in the North Quadrant, so it will be probably very helpful. And we know how parents are a key part from the education of the kids. So a parent who has his kid in the Anglophone school will be difficult for him to guide them, hold their hands, and get them successful at the end. The last comment here, I was very pleased that you highlighted the Francophone community that we have here. And when we were chatting during the week, we came up with a fact. Usually the average Francophone immigrant will spend 3 more years to settle down in Alberta. Why? He come here, he needs to spend 6 months to find a school who can give him LINK or ELS. Now he goes through the English lesson for 1 year and a half. Now he can go into a program where he can go have the first experience. So he spent 3 years. So by the time he's finished, have his first job, have 2 years experience, his counterpart are already supervisor or managers. So we'll talk about more of it. I just wanted to kind of like share with you what come up from the wonderful opening remark. Please can we give another round of applause for our president. So I'd like to welcome on the stage the chair of the organizing committee, who will be facilitating the fireside chat session, which will be a hybrid version, meaning that we're going to take one question from the stage and one question from the audience. So Sakine will be helping us with handing out the microphone. She will be standing right in the middle, and all you need to do when it goes time for question, she will pass the microphone along. So I'll give you this microphone. So can you please test the microphone that we have there on the stage just to make sure that everything works fine?
Is it working now? Yeah.
Now it's working. So I will. Can you turn off that microphone? Just want to. Perfect. That was the one.
Is there any? Is this one working now?
Okay. So what we'll do, we'll switch that one over.
Is it working now? Coty, do you want me to respond to what you said, or is there a question coming on that one? Okay, I'm just actually seeking, if you see me look at my phone, I was just asking to get some feedback on what the Francophone school status is in Calgary, to see if there's any other announcements coming. So I'll see if I can give you a live update there, but I'll have a few more things to say about that. Thanks for raising that.
Dear Honourable Premier, welcome to this fireside chat. It seems more of a family conversation than actually having a political discourse or raising politicians. And the name itself, fireside chat, tells us that we are coming to meet a family. These people here represent one of the largest French-speaking bloc in Africa, but at the same time, they have a very tiny English-speaking part, which makes it even more tricky. And the way we've structured the conversation is not to hold you with patients from the podium, but to let them actually present themselves so you can speak to them. Notwithstanding, there are a few questions that I also try to bring in. That I also try to bring in to make the conversation flowing. So, you had a Premier Summit on Fairness for Newcomers. That was a great summit. The outcome was great, and it reaffirmed successes of the newcomers. But you know, in as much as the success was proclaimed there with 20,000 skilled trades jobs created to be created for the next 6 years, we still feel a high probability that these 20,000 skilled jobs did not get us deep into it. There are still those systemic barriers that we face when, for those 6 years to get into this job. And the question that we present to you, Honourable Premier, is how did we not get there, and who are those who've been benefiting from all these trade jobs? So, and again, what policies are you and your team setting in place to ensure that we will be part of this in the coming years?
It's such a great question. So much of being able to get a good job and a good career is having a good network. And sometimes the only way to hear about an opportunity is by knowing somebody who knows that opportunity exists. So I wonder if that's one more area where we may need representation from your communities, is on some of our skilled trades task forces, because we know there's going to be jobs in a whole variety of areas. There's lots of career colleges. There are SAIT and NAIT up in the north. We have polytechnics in Lethbridge and Red Deer. We've got Bow Valley College, which is actually led by a member, I think, of the Nigerian community. And so we do have a number of different options. We've got student loans that enable people to get the loans that they need to get the training that they need to get attached to the jobs. And many of those career jobs or career colleges, they have a very, very high success rate of placing people into occupations. So it could be that there's just an information gap of knowing how to get the first step in to go through those different pathways. And if we need to have members of your community represented on those boards so that we can have better connection, we would like to do that. There are some challenges in getting credentials recognized. Is something I'm sure that Mohammed Hussein spends night and day about. Do you want to ask that question? I mean, so if there is a barrier, because I think, here's what I would say, it's kind of an everyone barrier in knowing what the skilled trades are. I can tell you one of my, I hope he doesn't mind me telling the story, my chief of staff was trying to figure out what his kid was going to do when he just graduated from school. And he called up the Building and Trades Association boss, and the boss said, you know what, there's a real shortage of people who know how to install sprinkler systems in buildings. And he said, and here's a pathway where your child could go and get some education so that he can install sprinkler systems. And so there's a lot of jobs out there that people don't even know that they exist. There's something like 300 different careers and professions. And for a long time, our school system just pushed folks towards the university option. But now we're broadening it out so that more kids have more options in K-12 education so that they can figure out a different pathway. So we have some work to do for everybody, not just members of your community. If there's additional barriers in your community, we need to address those too. But that's what we're discovering, is that there were so many jobs going unfilled just because people didn't know that they even existed.
Yeah, I'll thank you, Premier, for the response. I wanted to follow up and your address part of it concerning the credential recognition. We understand that the government of Alberta and most of the agencies actually put IPOS as a first. And the waiting time for IPOS in themselves put this community at the back, because it takes a long time for the credentials to be recognized. And by the time IPOS responds to the credential recognition, admission times are gone past. So the question is there a possibility that can let government allow other agencies recognize credentials to make it faster? Because IPOS takes least 13 weeks, but there are other agencies that can take 2-3 weeks. So so the question is there a possibility that the government can work with other agencies to lighten the burden, because 13 weeks admissions are lost, and then we have to wait for another whole year to go back to the admission. So that makes it cumbersome on this community.
I feel like I should call up my minister to maybe respond to that, because we did contemplate ending IPOS and using other credentials recognition, but I think we were persuaded that it was actually benefiting, that it was adding value to have that. But if that's not the case, then we need to look at that. Is there another credentials recognition body that operates faster that we should look at?
We have West, it's less than 7 days. Yeah, I think West is one of the fastest, less than 7 days.
Minister, why don't you respond to that one?
Thank you very much for that. Hello. Hello.
Well, thank you very much for that question. Our IQAS program has been there for some time, and it coordinates with other jurisdictions in terms of programs that are similar nature are available. And I know that IQAS in the last year or so evaluated and gave certificates or letters of recognitions of almost 18,000 people within a very short period of time. It's so fast now. I know it had some issues before, but we have taken care of all the improvements that we needed to make, and right now it's considered to be as one of the best, and we want to continue. In fact, there will be we know that they will be offering 2 more services as well. That if somebody wants to know in advance, if they're coming from abroad, they want to know what if their credential will be recognized, so we should be able to provide that service as well at the request. So it's working fine, but if we continuously look at our programs and services and make sure that we continue to improve them. Thank you.
Minister, is it the only one we use? If there's this other program, West, that is faster, can that be used as well?
Yeah, they're not. Yes, we coordinate with them. We talk to them because they offer similar services that we do, and in terms of their outcome, the time it takes to do certain types of services, we very much know how they operate, and our IQAS is very much on top of that, and if it's not better, it's no less than the other programs that are available outside of this moment, from Ontario, world services and so on, and we keep coordination with them.
Well, let me take that away and I'll see what some of the length of time is, because we're trying to reduce waiting times across all fronts for permits, and we've had some success. So the minister said that there were some problems. It sounds like he's working on improving them, but we'll see if there's any more that needs to be done there.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Premier, for and Honorable Minister for your response. I will now want us to get a question from the General Assembly.
Okay, just a quick format. So when you take the microphone, what will happen, I'll ask if you have a question, and you probably have a piece of paper or your question already printed out, just for to respect the time that we have. So we need two things, or actually four. Your name, the country you are originally from, your organizations, if that's applicable, and your questions. So let's try to keep it under 30 to 45 seconds or a minute maximum to give enough time to the Premier.
Can I ask a question?
Of course you can.
What is the arrival story of people who come from Congo and Chad and Gabon and Cameroon? Because I know the arrival story of Ukrainians, I know the arrival story of Italians and the Chinese and South Asians, but I don't know why there's so many came from that region. Was it because of a famine? Was it because of a war? What's the arrival story?
Okay, I can hear so what I will do, I'll put one person in the crowd to give like a statement that might not encompass everything, just because we have different reasons, and that's a pretty good opening statement. So,
hello, my name is Mimi Kayembe, and I'm a pastor at Danielle Civic Church. For Congo, because that's where I'm coming from, the biggest immigrant group that came because of the war. We have a war that is now at its 30th year, still going on. And right now, we might even have more immigrants coming because the war is getting even worse. So that war is not about to end right now because of everybody that is involved, and we now want to leave that country alone. That's why people are coming here.
Thank you for telling me that. Appreciate it.
thank you very much. And before I probably pass it on to you, I know a lot of Cameroonian or Gabonese do come to find like a better lifestyle. In fact, I'll say the majority of people who are coming will have like master's degree, bachelor degree, PhDs, 2, 3 of them. But because it's very hard to find like a decent job, they'll say we come here. And the other reason would probably be for the children. They come here for the future of their family. So, so we have the war factor, but we also have that main reason.
Is Cameroon involved in the Congo War, or is it a separate war? No, again, you have to sort of tell me the separate war. Okay, it's a similar area. Okay, has it gone on 30 years, or what is Cameroon and Gabon still?
Okay, so what we will do, I'll pass on to Dr. Guang here, who will make a comment before we go to the real questions of the session.
I want to thank the Premier for taking the time to come and talk to us, hear our concerns to, and address them as far as she can do. So, for Cameroon, I think she first mentioned the case of Ukraine, which they are coming here and others. But the thing is, with Cameroon, the story is not even known. A lot of us don't even know that there's a war going on. So, and that's why those Cameroonians who escaped from the war and they're able to get here is through their own personal means. And those who cannot remain there. So, I believe that if the situation is actually made known, just as the Premier has said, then Cameroon, especially the part that is concerned with the poor, they actually need help.
Thank you for that.
Okay, then before we go on, I want to bring to the knowledge of Premier that Cameroon is one of the countries that's just like Canada.
Yeah.
It has an English speaking part and French speaking part. But the only difference is that in Canada, it's a reverse. The English part is the smallest part, and the French part is the largest part. So we have almost the same structure, French and English like as it is in Canada.
And Chad as well. What's the Chad diaspora story?
Okay, so we have, do you have a child rep?
Right there.
Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing us to have a conversation with you today. Thanks for coming and seeking to get input from our communities and all of the challenges that everyone will be talking about here today are very known challenges that we've been facing, and probably the biggest one of them is the language, because we have to come and adapt, and that makes us lose about 2-3 years by the time we settle. And for sure that after that, when you get a job, it's still be an entry job, right? And someone talked about it. I think there are different representation here from Chad in the room. Even though we are a very small community, we are very dynamic and active. And people come from different reasons, right? Some of them come from political reasons, others come from economic reasons. I personally came here to Alberta for economic reason, but there are other folks that come because they are displaced of the war, of the civil war that has been going on in Central Africa. I don't even know, but Chad went through 40 years of civil wars, and after that it's still a stable country, if I can say that. We are a landlocked country surrounded by 4 other countries. We don't have access to the sea, but all of the countries around us are going through difficulties, challenges, war, and that's affecting us. We have more displaced within the country than any other region, and for everything going on, I'm pretty sure everyone has a different story and they can talk about it, but yeah, different stories.
Thank you so much. It's very helpful for me to know that, because when we ended up seeing the war in Ukraine, one of the reasons so many Ukraine evacuees came here is that there was already a successful diaspora community, many generations entrenched, that still kept the language, kept the food, kept the dance, kept the culture, kept the religion, and were able to open their doors and their hearts to be able to help show the newcomers the way. And that's why the diaspora community here is so important, that if we do end up seeing additional waves of newcomers coming because of the disruption, then we'll know that we can reach out to you and be able to figure out how to create programs that are going to be supportive and helpful. What we found with the Ukrainian diaspora is we created a helpline in Ukrainian so they could call and hear the advice in their own language, and then be able to go onto a website so that they could find 5 or 6 programs described in their own language. And so those are the kind of things that we learned a lot, because so many people came in that rush, about 70,000, that we had to put those tools in place. But maybe those are the kind of tools that we need at all times, knowing what the different communities are, so that we can get people connected with the programs that are available. It's just finding the person who can help navigate through is one of the biggest challenges, and we don't want you waiting 3 years before you get to a point where you can get that first opportunity. We want to be able to speed that up. So thanks for giving me such great feedback.
Perfect. Looks like you have been spying on our notes throughout the week. You just touched up on an item that we spoke about in the week. So thank you very much for that, Premier. Okay, so we're going to take the first question out of the crowd. Please raise your hand if you have a question to ask, and Sakine will come with the microphone. Please, like we said, you must have probably a piece of paper. So what we did, we went through the questions submitted. So those are the priorities, and after that, we can actually take extra questions. Okay, 40 seconds, not more, please. Thank you.
My question will be in French. Is it allowed? Yeah.
I'll have to get a translation. I'm using,
Okay.
I'm using the application monthly to learn French. I only have 1,128 words that I know. So I need a little bit more time.
Je m'appelle Mathieu Karenga. Je suis le président de la communauté congolaise à Calgary. Alors, ma question se rapporte à l'économie. Comme vous le savez, l'Alberta dépend d'un seul produit, le pétrole et le gaz. Alors, avez-vous un plan pour la diversification de l'économie albertaine pour ne pas commencer des trucs comme on est en train de vivre maintenant, comme ça, en colonisateur. Voilà, ça.
I think I got most of that from Congo, question about the economy, and wanted to know if I have a plan to diversify beyond oil and gas. Alright, that app is working.
Now answer in French.
You don't have to. You don't have to.
Next time I'm here, I hope I won't be able to. Yes, the oil and gas is very important to our economy, and it will be for the foreseeable future, at least a few more decades. And so this is a good opportunity for us to make sure that with the new revenues coming in, that we save some of them for the future so that we can grow up our heritage fund, our sovereign wealth fund, so that it can generate revenue, so that we're not as reliant on oil and gas revenues. We've started down that path, so that's one thing about diversifying where our money comes from, so that we don't have to increase taxes. So that's a very important policy we've had in place for the last 3 years. We've grown our sovereign wealth fund from about 17 billion to, by the end of this year, 26 billion. And we have a plan to grow that to 250 billion by 2050. And that would then generate about the same amount of revenue as we're getting right now from oil and gas. But when it comes to all of the other areas of the economy, it's amazing how diversified we're getting. In the last 3 or 4 years, we've had 700 million a year of venture capital money come into Alberta. That then creates a group of entrepreneurs who are then able to fund other projects, and so we've got a growing IT space. They have something called unicorns. You have a market cap of $1 billion. I think we've got 4 of those companies of that size in Calgary and others who are on the way. We have the ability now to attract AI data centers, which is going to be another big area. That and all of the different spin-off applications that come from developing artificial intelligence. We've got one of the best academics in the world in University of Alberta who's attracting others in. We've got a STEM program, science, technology, English, math, so young kids can learn programming from the earliest ages. So all of that area is going to be a huge new growth area. Our polytechnics are moving into 3D manufacturing. So if you go in, they have 3D printers where they can use resins and other materials to be able to create new products. So manufacturing, small manufacturing, is going to continue to be a growth area in both southern and northern Alberta. We have an incredibly growing construction field. We've got so many projects that are coming in. So all of the building trades are going to continue to be areas of high growth, including in the housing market and commercial real estate. We have a film industry because we've got refundable tax credits. So we've got some major productions that have come into Alberta, and then all of the additional support in developing those projects so that they can do the post-production and get online. We have an immense and growing agri-food business, so we have not only primary production in grains and vegetables and greenhouses and urban farms and cattle, but on top of that, all of the processing. We've had, I think, $3 billion worth of new processing plants that have moved into Alberta for potatoes to flour and various other projects. We've got new energy being developed. There's some projects looking at potential for nuclear technology and all the supply chain and jobs associated with that. Wind and solar continue to be high areas of investment in our province and all of the jobs associated with that. Geothermal is a brand new area of investing as well. We've got a new drilling accelerator to find new ways to be able to drill those kinds of wells for geothermal purposes. We've got an immense amount of critical minerals. I found out we've got uranium deposits in Alberta, we've got lithium deposits in Alberta, and many helium as well, which is used for space travel and various other types of new types of economy jobs. And then all the traditional jobs that we have in the healthcare field. Healthcare is going to change dramatically from the new types of pharmaceuticals and biologics all the way through to robotics in being able to assist in surgery. So I think we've got it all here. It really is, and I didn't even mention forestry, which is, I've been told we have one of the best environments to invest in forestry as well. So yes, we do have a huge amount of our economy reliant on oil and gas. We recognize that that's going to transition over time to be a relatively smaller part of our economy. But I think having both at the moment, building up the new economy and still having the strength of the old one, puts us in a perfect position.
Yeah, Honourable Premier, just to follow up to that, we rely on oil, but at the same time we notice that we are focusing on the pipeline for oil to refine in the US. The question is, what is it that the government cannot do to expand the refinery so that we can it can create more jobs here and employ and create more employment, so we refine a better oil here, and probably that may also bring in income for the economy as well.
There's, in the industry, one of the things that has developed is that they like to have the refining close to the place that's going to be using it, because different places require different things. Some require more jet fuel, some require more diesel, some require more asphalt. And so that's part of the model that we've developed, is let's transport it in its raw form so that it can be turned into the products that make sense at the end user. Now, what I'd like to see is for us to do a little bit more of that with our friends in Eastern Canada. If we could build an energy pipeline going east and a refinery there to help feed the markets in Ontario and Quebec. They already have a couple of refineries there. That may be the way that we keep the jobs Canadian, but also don't necessarily have to do it all here. We tried to build a refinery a few years ago, and unfortunately, it keeps on costing us money. It's supposed to be, I think, a $3 billion project. It turned out to be $10 billion, and we're still losing money on it each year. Okay, so until we can figure out how to do that and make sure that it makes money rather than loses money, I'm not inclined to want to do any more projects like that. But we do have Dow Petrochemical, which is a good example where we are rebating them back some of their capital cost when they're done. And they invested $10 billion to take natural gas and turn it into plastics and then capture the CO2 and bury it underground so that it's low emissions. And they were able to do that all in the private sector. That's one of the biggest projects that we've had invested. So if we can attract more of that, then we should. But we have to try to make sure that the private sector is leading it.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Honorable Premier. We're going to take the next question in the housing. So,
thank you. My question is on housing. First of all, my name is Matthias. I'm from Cameroon, a member of the Women and Water Association, the president here. Okay, so August 5th last year, there was a hailstorm that caused significant damage to homes in the northwest Calgary communities of Livingston and Alberta. While many homeowners had insurance coverage, some policies excluded hailstorm damage, resulting in denied insurance claims. My question is twofold. What steps is the provincial government taking to assist affected homeowners? And measures are being considered to ensure that home insurance policies include mandatory coverage for severe weather events such as hailstorms?
Thanks for the question. I think I just got an update that the hailstorm was the worst in Alberta history for cost. I think it was something like $3 billion worth of damage. I hadn't heard the stories about claims being denied, so maybe you can connect with Bruce at the end so that we can make sure that we understand a little bit more about why that happened. We just did a review of auto insurance, and we had to come up with some major changes in how auto insurance is delivered so that it has broader coverage for people in the event that they're in an accident. We may have to do the same thing for home insurance because I'm hearing similar problems in home insurance, similar problems in commercial vehicle insurance, and similar problems in commercial property insurance. So it's a very long process to go through, unfortunately, but I think that because we're beginning to see these problems, we're going to continue to see these problems. I've spoken with the company that does they do cloud seeding. They try to put particles in the clouds to make the hail smaller so it's less damaging, but it doesn't always work because it's such a huge area. And we and Colorado just happen to be in the kind of geographic zone where hail is created, and it always will be. So we've got to find a better way to protect citizens. And we're torn because you could mandate different materials to build in areas, but if you mandate different types of roof material on different sides, it makes it more expensive. And so if it becomes more expensive, then you've got an affordability problem. So we have to sort that out because this is not going to be a one-time problem. We're probably going to end up with these kinds of major hailstorms periodically, and you just don't want to leave people without having the proper coverage. So I'll take it away. I'd like to hear more of those stories so that we can see what we might be able to do about it.
Thank you. The next question I will take concerns employment in the health industry. We know that the health industry is always looking for nurses and doctors. But at the same time, we realize that about 80% of the employees of the health system are non-Black, non-Africans. And most who are employed are never given full-time positions. They always are on a casual or part-time position. So what is it that is affecting or is deterring the government from actually creating full-time positions for these well-trained nurses and doctors who finally resort in actually working, either getting part-time jobs in senior homes or in hospices, rather than actually doing what they trained for. And at the same time, the government needs these workers because of patient staff ratios, high patient staff ratios.
Well, I'll look to Mohammed just in case I'm answering the question wrong, but one thing we discovered is that we have a problem in how newcomers' credentials are recognized, that you have to have 3 years of Canadian work experience to work in your field. But how are you supposed to get 3 years of Canadian work experience if that's a requirement? Right? It doesn't make any sense. So one of the councils that Mohammed put together, we're taking some advice of what they do in engineering. So in engineering, they have a very fast approach to assessing the degree and seeing where the areas are needed to get more education. And that does sometimes happen. Like, we're a cold weather climate, and so as a result of that, there is some additional considerations in engineering, as for instance, that you might need to have additional coursework for. So you do sometimes have to have extra courses. But what they allow to happen is the person to work as an engineer with supervision while they're getting that coursework. And then I think they're also waiving the 3-year Canadian work experience requirement. And so if they can do that in engineering, then we should be able to do that in other professions as well. And so it requires a legislative change that I think we're hoping to be able to bring forward spring or fall. And we hope that that will ease it. That's one part. The other part is working with the unions, and sometimes what happens with unions is the first person hired has the seniority, and so they get the first dibs when full-time jobs come up. But what we're also finding is that the longer people work, sometimes they don't want those full-time jobs. So we have to have a system where the senior people can reject the full-time jobs faster so that they can be offered to the newcomers who want them, or to the new grads. And we've had some success in that in the last year, I understand, offering more full-time jobs. But we need to do more. My preference would be anyone who wants to have a full-time job, we should give them priority. And then those who only want to work part-time and casual because they're managing other issues, then they would be able to do the fill-in work. And we've got it a little bit backwards right now. And so that's one of the things we have to finish our negotiations with our unions, and then we'll be able to see if we can start talking about a different hiring practice. So yes, we're working on all of those things too. And we've heard the complaints, so we know we need to solve that.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Premier. So the next question will be on employment and inclusion. So if you have a question in that area, please raise your hand.
Gauthier, can I just maybe answer a question here?
Yes.
We're in the planning stages on 2 new Francophone schools in Calgary, a K-6 in Edgemont, so that would be in the north, and then a high school in North Calgary. So I don't know, but is that going to satisfy all of the needs to have one in Edgemont for K-6 and then a high school in North Calgary?
Probably not. That's the stage, which means 3 years from now.
3 years,
yes. Going to be up of the ground.
Yeah.
If you ask me, I'm not an expert, but I think probably 2 more probably have different positions.
Really, 2 more schools. There's that much need.
Looking especially about the distance, because when you look at the CBD and the Catholic school district, they are very close, like 15, 20, 30 minutes, that's all.
Okay.
Francophone has, and I can't believe the kids are doing it and enjoying it and come happy. 1 hour, 15, 1 hour, 1
It's a long time.
And so that's
knowing that we've identified 2 more, because the way our constitution works is that Francophone language rights have a special status, and so it's always been where numbers warrant, and we go out to the community and we do surveys to find out if there's enough kids coming in where numbers warrant to be able to have those schools. So that's why we've made the decision on 2 more. But if there is the need for more, maybe we just need to do a few more surveys on it. There's a Francophone school in my riding in Brooks Medicine Hat, and it's a K-12, but they've also added a couple of interesting things. They've added a daycare. So the daycare then feeds into the kindergarten, and then they also have, they want to do college courses at night so that they can either do childcare providers or healthcare aides. So they're able to use the building for the full range. It's almost like a cultural hub, all the way from the earliest ages through to K-12, and then also activities afterwards. So it may be that that's the kind of approach that we need to be looking at, so that we can build more multi-purpose facilities. So I'll take that away to my education minister.
appreciate it.
Good morning. Thank you, Prime Minister. Thank you for giving me this opportunity today. You previously talked about inclusion and diversity, but when it comes to healthcare system, I really feel discrimination amongst recruitment process. So my name is Sophie. I forgot to present myself. I am a registered nurse here in Alberta. I hold an active registration. But when it comes to interview, hiring manager always asks about my Canadian experience. I don't have any. Where am I going to get that experience if you don't give me that opportunity? And also, some hiring managers sometimes said, okay, you don't speak English as a native. I am not a native. I am who I am. I'm trying to speak English. I've learned English. I came here 2 years ago. I was not speaking English at all. My first language is French, but I struggle to learn English because I know it's a part of our integration. So now that I struggle to get my license and they are asking me about Canadian experience, where am I going to get that? Even when you want to volunteer as a registered nurse in the hospital, they say they cannot take you because of liability. So what am I supposed to do to get involved as a registered nurse here in Alberta? And others even said, okay, since your first language is French, it's better for you to go to Quebec. I don't want to go to Quebec. I want to practice here in Alberta. Thank you.
Tu parles anglais, mais vu que je parle français. Does that make sense? Do you speak English better than I speak French? So you're doing very well. And I agree with you, that's a frustration. So we've identified that 3-year Canadian work experience is a barrier, and it's not fair, because you could do the same thing. You could, we could examine your credentials, because we've got the systems. We could partner you with somebody who could be a supervisor, so that if there are courses you need to take, you could take them at the same time as you're working. And your English is excellent. There's no reason that should be a barrier to you. We've had a problem that Alberta Health Services has been the only employer. And so if they have discriminatory hiring practices, where else are you supposed to go? So it's part of the reason why we're having Covenant Health, Alberta Health Services, Charter Surgical Centers, and all of the other different entities that provide service have different management so that you have different options. So that's the second part that we're doing. The third thing is I'm wondering if we have to set up something in Alberta Health as the ministry at the top. We saw that there was a lot of racism against Indigenous individuals in the healthcare system. So we've created a secretariat or like a department so that those issues can be flagged and raised directly with the minister. And what you're saying makes me wonder if I have to do something similar for a broader group of people, like maybe a multicultural secretariat in the ministry, so that if we're finding these kinds of issues, whether as a patient or whether you feel there's discrimination as somebody seeking work, that it's flagged for us so that we hear about it. Because right now we don't really have a line of sight on stories like you've just told, other than to come to town halls like this. So I think we're developing a good approach to address these issues in the Indigenous community. Let me just see if I need to do more than this, because I suspect we're probably hearing about it, because we know that we've heard of racism in the Black community, in the Muslim community, in other cultural identifiable cultural groups. So Mohammed Yassin and I will take that away and see if there's something we can do. But we're working on all of these things. It will require legislative change. I think I just arm twisted him to accelerate it to spring. I think he was thinking fall, but I think that we probably have to really move. Since we've identified it's a big problem, we've got to move on that, because it's just not, I agree with you, it's just not fair. Do you want to say anything more about that, Mohammed?
Thank you very much for that very good question. Actually, this credential recognition has been, we have focused on this area right from 2019. First, we did this Fair Registration Practices Act that ensures that our regulatory bodies are fair, just in their process. And we have an office looking after them to make sure that happens. Then we got into actually the way of recognizing credentials. And for that, we've done a lot of things, and among that is our latest committee that we formed last year. And we just received an interim report on that. And this experience requirement is hard, and so that interim report, and we will have good things to share with you later on. And we will have a full report on that by the end of end of June this year, and then we'll take it further. It's likely that we will require some legislative changes, and if that is required, the Premier is 100% on that, and we will make sure that no one is left behind because of their credential, because of how they look, because of how they believe, because of what their culture is. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister Mohammed. So, because of time, we're going to take only one question before we close. I know, but only one question. So, two things. I'll say a quick remark. There's a lot of people when they go to the hospital because they speak French, they cannot express themselves. Oh, I have a headache, but how do you say it in English? Oh, I have a pain in this corner. So I see having bilingual nurses and healthcare professionals in the system more beneficial because you might be running less tests because they were able to express themselves better and save taxpayer dollars. After we are done with the questions, we have one last question. For the pictures, we are going to have, first of all, the organizing committee taking a picture with the Premier. Then you're going to have all the leaders. If you recognize yourself as a leader, you will come on the stage for the second picture. And if you want to have any other pictures after that, please line up on the right side, my right side, not so my right side, and only people in line will have a chance to take a picture with the Premier. Si vous êtes un leader communautaire dans la salle, nous allons avoir trois séries de photos. La première série, ce sera juste les leaders qui font partie du comité d'organisation de cet événement. Deuxième, tous les leaders qui se reconnaissent comme leaders. Et le troisième, ce seront des photos individuelles. Il faudra être aligné sur le côté droit.
Yeah, but just I wanted to comment on that. Is the groups represented here, is it English and French the only languages, or are there indigenous languages to those regions too?
Okay, I'll answer on that unless you want to jump in. So English and French are the national official languages. But let's just talking about Cameroon, we have over 200 dialects spoken. Yes. So now imagine times 5 different countries. That's how diverse is the culture.
Would those people coming here though know at least French or English?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like French should be an easy one. I can tell you, I use Google Translate because I'm also trying to get around in Spanish-speaking countries. I ended up buying furniture in Spanish using Google Translate. So I just put that out there that I know it's not the perfect answer, but that could be one way for helping to communicate. It shouldn't be that difficult for us to be able to find bilingual nurses and hire bilingual staff because we are a bilingual country. It gets a little more complicated with I think we've got something like 153 different languages represented in Alberta, so it becomes a little more complicated when you go beyond English and French. But I'll try to get an understanding of how common it is to have French within our system, because it should be that we have that much more available than it is. So I'm surprised that you're having difficulties navigating in French. I would have thought that would be one of the easier language barriers to solve. It's good for me to know.
So I'll let you, Dr. Chi, hand out or take the last question before we move on with the program. Thank you very much, Honorable.
Yeah, the last question we have concerns security. And it may be a bit biased because I know that the government understands that we are more prone to be stopped and checked. And the process, in a very brutal process, in the approach, and in a very disrespectful manner. Again, especially when you struggle to speak English, it becomes worse. But the concern is not only that. Even when the police stop us on the way and we want to clear away from the traffic, we are charged. Meaning that they don't care whether the traffic is obstructed or not, even at peak traffic. So the question is, how can we balance their job at the same time providing safety, because obstructing traffic in itself causes problems and can lead to other accidents.
I would encourage you to have members of your community consider running for political office. I would mention that because when Casey Madhu was elected and became Justice Minister, one of the things that he did was eliminate carding, eliminate the sort of the stop and check approach that police had been taking, which was targeting members of the Black community unfairly. And so having somebody who has that experience able to bring it into the legislature and be in a position of decision making, it's really important to have that. And so at the moment, I think we only have one member of the Black community in the legislature, Rhiannon Hoyle, on the NDP side. So I would just put it to you that it's important to take part in these processes. That's one part. The other thing is we have police commissions, and we share the same concern that you've just raised, which is why we are now appointing provincial representatives on our big police commissions, so that we have that perspective, so that you have others who can bring forward a different perspective. It may be that we need to identify members of your community who can be representatives, maybe in our biggest cities, Calgary, Edmonton, if that's where the big problems are. I think we do have members of the Black community on both of our representatives. Follow up with Dr. Chica just to see, because we may be having to do more on that. The other thing that we're doing is we're creating a provincial oversight police review commission. And this may be very important for you because we are hiring a person to lead that commission. And what these commissions do is it's exactly this. If there is allegations of wrongdoing, they are the ones who bring it forward. If it's serious, they're the ones who launch an investigation. And so this may be our opportunity to have a lens across all of the province. So the result is right for you when we start populating that police commission. Let's make sure we've got a couple of steps. We have to get a member of this community onto our Black Advisory Committee, and then we've got to bring this issue to the Black Advisory Committee to get some names that we might be able to put on there. And there's probably other communities who feel similarly like they're being policed in a different way. And no one should feel that way. The police have a job to do, it's an important job to do. They've got to go after bad guys who are dealing fentanyl and getting involved in gangs and drug smuggling and people smuggling. That's what we want our police focused on. We don't want members of our community who are law-abiding feeling like they're being targeted. And so we want to be able to address that. So there's a couple of things that we're going to do. And just make sure that you're in touch with our office so that as we start putting those names forward, that you feel well represented.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So before we go to the suggestions that Dr. Che will deliver, I've been receiving a lot of feedback that we need a question on immigration. So what I will do, I'll twist my arm, and I know.
How about I can proactively answer that because I did see that somebody had answered it. But if you've got somebody who wants to level a question at me, I'm ready for it.
If you can raise it. I have one question on immigration and. Yes.
Thank you, Premier. You are a great lady. I'm from Cameroon. My name is Florence Gola, and I'm the president of the Com Cultural Association. And I'm from Cameroon. Thank you very much. I want to thank the immigration for bringing our families closer to us. Since 2016, there has been a crisis in Cameroon. Most of our families fled and came here, and they were granted asylum. So they are living with us. I have two with me right now. So the question is, we know Calgary is already saturated. The rents are so high. So are there specific regions or cities in Alberta where the newcomers can settle due to employment prospects, and what incentives are available to support relocation? And please, Premier, let's try and vote for the board members as you promised right now. Thank you.
Well, I think you might have a vote that you have to take after we leave here so that we can narrow it down. But one thing that I find frustrating, and I know that Minister Eugene finds frustrating, is We believe that we've got a very good pathway to bring people in and connect them with jobs through our provincial nominee program, but the federal government won't allow us to increase the number that we're able to bring through that program. When I first came in, I think it was 6,700. We've got it up to over 10,000, and now they've just reduced us again. What have they reduced us to, Mohammed? 4870. So there's only 4870 positions that we have the ability to bring people through so that they can get permanent immigration. It's not fair because the ones who come here come exactly as you've described. They've got family members who sponsor them, they're learning the language, and now they're wanting to get connected to jobs. That is the perfect pathway for someone to be permanently settled here. So we're going to keep fighting that one because in Quebec, they choose 55% of the people that come into their province. And so if we had the same amount, we would be choosing probably about 30,000 people, and that would give us more opportunities. So that's one thing that we're advocating for. I'm hearing that there are so many opportunities out there, but I'm hearing that there's a navigator problem of how do you get connected to the opportunities that are there. And if that's a problem for your communities, with as established as so many of you are, it's going to be a problem for many communities. So I think Mohammed and I have to take that away and figure out if we can create more navigation tools in different languages. French should be an obvious one, on the website so that we can let people know where the opportunities are. It is always the case, what has happened in Canada is most people have come and they've arrived in Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, and then they realize the jobs are in Alberta, so then they come to Calgary and Edmonton. And then they realize, well, there's jobs elsewhere too. Like my community, Brooks, we are the city of 1,000 hellos, I think, because we have so many different newcomers from different places that are there. Lethbridge is another place where it is growing like gangbusters. Same with Red Deer. Up in Fort McMurray, there's a large Ethiopian community up there, actually. And Grand Prairie is going to continue to grow as well. But it is always so, like the work that you're doing here, the fact that you've got a meeting and gathering place, I've been here a couple of times for events now, that is the starting point, because then once you develop the meeting and gathering place and you are able to do cultural events and you're able to meet people, that becomes the avenue to get connected to those other opportunities. And now it's just a matter of trying to network those through. I don't know if you have a Cameroon association outside of Calgary that you're connected to. But those are probably the best opportunities to find out what's happening in some of the other communities. And you're very right. If you are in a smaller community, the rents and the housing costs are less, and so it can actually be easier and cheaper cost of living there. But we have to make sure that there's connections to the jobs that are there as well. So I feel like we have a little bit of work, Mohammed and I, to do in making sure that we're getting to you in the language that's comfortable, all of the different ways that you can get connected to the programs. So hopefully when you have me back next year, we'll have more of an update on that for you. But thanks for raising it. It's a very good point.
So what we have to do is just to go to the next item. So we have about 5 minutes just for Dr. Che to go over a couple of suggestions that either way. Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Can you please give a round of applause to our
Dear Honorable Premier, we thank you immensely for taking time of this very busy time of your schedule to come to this place for this conversation. We are happy as countries in Central Africa to have received you, and we believe that through this conversation, you and your team have come to know us better. We have also come to know you better. We highly appreciate your candor and patience in responding to our questions. While the patients raise various issues affecting this community and the Black community in general, we are confident that our interaction with you and your team has developed a platform for greater conversations. Honorable Premier, today marks a new beginning in our partnership. And as you and your team can testify, we need to sustain it. It can only be sustained by us. Whereas the onus is on this community to raise the concerns to you and your team, we must highlight that any meaningful growth in such a partnership depends highly on your government's ability to embrace us not as vassals nor consumers, but as equal partners in developing, building and sustaining this city and the province economically and socially. Dear Honorable Premier, this is Black History Month, and we are making history as we shift from a celebratory approach of dining and wining to creating a more interactive conversational platform that has provided an opportunity to listen, argue, disagree, agree, or build consensus on who truly we are as inhabitants of one of the fastest growing multicultural and multilingual city in Canada. Through history, we have also learned that a very crucial item of African and Black history is the constant iteration of Black and African community problems and issues by governments. And the most important reason for such constant rehearsals without seeking proper solution is linked to their absence on the table where decisions are made and taken, and lack of well-intentioned structures to implement approved policies. Dear Premier, your celebration of Black History Month with this community has provided an avenue for us to make the following proposals. That if the Black History Month has to honor and recognize the contributions of Blacks to the growth of Alberta, the Premier and her government should consider the creation of a ministry in charge of Black affairs, which will constantly consult with these communities and represent their interests during decision making. It is I believe that such an office will conduct in-depth findings and propose tailored solutions to the various issues raised during our conversations. Secondly, that the Honorable Premier and her team further enhance the multilingual nature of services in Calgary and Alberta, and consider the inclusion of widely spoken African languages in translation of documents. Compte tenu de la croissance de la population francophone à Calgary et en Alberta, l'honorable Premier et son équipe devraient envisager un changement de politique éducative afin d'inclure la création d'institutions professionnelles et post-secondaires francophones pour répondre aux besoins de la population francophone dans les villes comme Calgary. Dear Honorable Premier, these proposals are not insurmountable and present approaches that may finally provide the tailored solutions needed. We wish to leave you and your team with these in hope that our journey as partners in the development of Calgary and Alberta has just begun. Thank you again for coming, and we appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chief, Chairman of the Organizing Committee. I would like, please, if the Honorable Premier can join me here. We have a small gift for you before you give your closing remark. And that's on the name of the whole Central African community in Calgary. Can we please give some round of applause to please, and Mimi, thank you for holding out. Thank you very much, Mimi. Thank you, everyone. Now, Premier, would you like to make a closing remark, please?
Well, thank you so much for a great conversation, and I'm sure that we could have gone on a little bit longer. I will say that I think our starting point, to respond to Dr. Chi, we have to have, I think, a more representative Black Advisory Committee. So we need to get a few more members, and we'll take your advice on that and how we expand it. We just have to make sure that all of the perspectives from the different Black communities are represented there to see where the crossovers are. I think I did take away that we do need to have more dedicated services as well when it comes to the multilingual access points, whether it's a phone line or whether it's dedicated websites. So I'll take that away and work with Minister Yacine on that. And when it comes to the Francophone in particular, perhaps one of my next meetings we could bring Tanya with me. I think she's head of in charge of Francophonie. I do also have two French-speaking ministers, Minister Dan Williams and Minister Nate Lubish. And so we do have a special department for Francophonie to make sure that we're appropriately supporting the French language needs in our province. If there's more that we need to do there, then we should make sure that we don't have any missing pieces. So next time I'm back, we'll see if we have some answers for you on these issues. But let's get started with having a few more members of your community on our Black Advisory Committee so we can get started on identifying some of these really tough issues and solving them. But thank you so much for being so generous with your time today.